long ago, there were 3 young men. And the young men grew up in a family that followed the Gadua way, the good way, the way of the good mind. And though their father was gone, their mother was a respected woman, and she raised them in that way the best she could. And there came a time when that oldest brother was no longer content with the life of his family, the life of his village, the life of the larger community. He went to his mother and he said, "Mother, I want to see the world. I want to travel. Make some brown cornmeal, that traveling food. I want to go out and see what there is to see and learn what there is to learn." And the mother said, "My son, I will make the brown cornmeal for you. But would you wait until tomorrow to leave? If you are going on such a journey, there are many things I would like to tell you." But the older boy was impatient. He insisted that she make the cornmeal for him, and he would be gone that very day. And so the oldest boy set out walking. Now it was getting on toward evening. The light was fading from the sky, and the oldest brother saw an old man coming toward him. He greeted him politely, as he had been taught. And the old man said, "My son, where are you going?" "I'm going out to see the world," said the oldest brother. "I'm going to see what there is to see and learn what there is to learn." "Uh-huh," said the old man, "that is a good thing." And as the boy started to walk away, the old man called after him, "My son, it has been many days since I've eaten and I'm hungry. Would you have any food that you could share with me?" And the oldest brother said, "I have the brown cornmeal, the traveling food my mother made for me, but my journey will be long. I will need it for myself." "Go in peace then, my son," said the old man, and the boy kept on walking. Now it was almost dark when he came to a house in the woods, and standing at the gate of the fence that surrounded the house was what appeared to him to be the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, and she was singing. And as he stopped and stared at her in wonder, she said, "Come in, young man. You have journeyed far. Stay here tonight and I will feed you." And the boy was dazzled by what he saw. And as he walked through the gate, the woman slipped a little pebble into his hand and said, "Put that in your medicine pouch." And so the boy did. And he went inside, and the woman prepared food for him, and he slept there in her house. But when the sun rose, he looked, and he did not see a beautiful young woman. He saw an old woman whose face was fierce and whose eyes were angry, and he was frightened. He grabbed his belongings and made to leave the house, and she said, "You insult me. You must eat a meal with me before you leave." But the young man was so frightened. He turned and ran, and she called after him, "You will only fall ill." And as he passed through the gate, he heard a popping sound from inside his medicine pouch, and he fell to the ground, lifeless. And the old woman gathered his body to her and carried it inside her house and placed it in a box. And so the mother and the two remaining brothers did not know it, but the oldest brother's journey had ended less than 1 day's travel from his home. Now it was 1 year later, on the anniversary of the oldest brother's leave-taking, that the second brother and the youngest brother went to water in the morning. And as they dashed the water on their face, suddenly both of their noses began to bleed, and they looked at the drops of blood in the water, and it seemed they could see their brother's face, they could hear his voice, and they knew that he was in trouble. And so the second brother went to their mother and said, "I must leave. I must go to find my older brother." And the mother said, "I will make for you the brown cornmeal. But would you wait until tomorrow? If you are going on this journey, there are things I would share with you." But like his older brother, this young man was impatient. He insisted that she make the brown cornmeal for him right that moment. He packed a pouch full of the cornmeal, and like his brother, he set out that very day. And like his brother, as the sun was going down, he saw an old man walking toward him. And the old man spoke to him and said, "Son, where are you going?" And the second brother said, "My oldest brother is in trouble. I am the one who can help him." "Go then," said the old man. And as the boy walked away, the old man called, "I am hungry. I have not eaten in many days. Would you have food that you could share?" And the second brother said, "I have the brown cornmeal my mother made for me, but I do not know how long my journey will be. I must keep it for myself." And he kept on walking. And like his brother, he came to that house in the forest, and he too saw the figure of a beautiful young woman singing, and he was transfixed by her beauty and the sound of her voice. And she called to him and said, "Come, eat, spend this night with me." And as the boy walked through the gate, she slipped a stone into his hands and said, "Put this in your medicine pouch." And the boy did. And like his brother, he ate a meal with that woman. He slept in her house. And when the sun rose, there was no beautiful young woman. There was a fierce, old, angry woman in her place. And the boy was frightened, and he too turned to run. And when he reached the gate, the woman called, "You will fall ill." And the boy heard a popping sound at his side, and he fell lifeless to the ground. And the old woman gathered him up and put him in that wooden box. Now 1 year later, the youngest son went to water. And as he splashed his face, his nose began to bleed, and as the drops of blood landed in the water, he saw both his brothers' faces. He heard their voices calling to him. And he went back and told his mother what he had seen, and she began to weep. "Ah, my son, I have lost my two oldest boys. I do not want to lose you, but I know that you will go. But would you stay one more night with me? There are things that I would teach you." And the youngest son agreed. And so the mother made that brown cornmeal, and she and her son talked through the night, and she told him many of the things that she felt he needed to know. How to be kind, how to be honest, things that would help him in his journey. And as the sun rose, he went to water with her one more time. And then he too left on that journey. And that evening, when he saw the old man coming toward him, he did not wait for the old man to ask. He said, "Grandfather, are you hungry? I have food. Let's go to water and eat." And so the young man shared his brown cornmeal with the old man. And when he had finished, the old man told him what had happened to his brothers and where they could be found. And he said, "Let me give you that which will help you." And he gave the boy a little flute. And he taught him how to use it, and he taught him when to use it. And so when the boy continued his journey and came to that house, he saw the young woman that his brothers had seen, and he agreed to come into the house as his brothers had done. But when she slipped that stone into his hands, he did not put it in his medicine pouch. As they passed the fire burning in the yard, he threw that stone in the fire, and it made a great popping sound. And the woman turned and said, "What was that?" "I believe it came from the trees," said the boy. "A branch popped when the wind blew it." And so they went into the house. And the next morning, when the boy prepared to leave, and the woman showed herself as she truly was, and he would not be deterred. When he walked through the gate, he did not fall ill. And the old woman was enraged, and she pulled a knife and ran screaming at him. And the boy pulled out the flute the old man had given him, and he blew on it 4 times. And an eagle and a bear and a lion and an ootang came out of the air, and they tore that old woman to pieces. And when the boy said, "It is done," they vanished. The boy went into the house and found that box, and he knocked on it with the flute 4 times, and his brothers woke up and stood before him. And they talked. And the youngest brother said, "Our mother has missed you so badly. I am going to continue this journey, but go home. Be with her. Learn from her." And the oldest brothers agreed. And it is said that the boy traveled very, very widely, met many people, helped many people, and it would take many stories to tell you of his travels. But at last he came to a village of people where there was a woman chief, and the village was all in a turmoil because they had received a message that their woman chief, so kind and good, had drawn the jealous ire of a great monster, a 2-headed giant who was even at that hour drawing close to the village in order to kill their chief. And the boy went from one group of people to the next saying, "Let me help. I can help." But the people laughed at him. He said, "You are too young. You are not even one of us. How could you help?" But at last, the word reached the chief that there was a stranger in the village saying that he could help, and she sent for him. And she sat with him, and she talked with him, and listening to him, she knew that he was special. And so she seated him on her left side. And before long they saw this great two-headed monster walking toward them, and the boy said, I must go and meet him. He must not come among your people. And so he left the village and he walked out alone. And when that two-headed monster was close, he pulled that flute from his pocket. And he blew 4 times, and the bear and the eagle and the lion and the uktane came out of the air, and they tore that monster into shreds. And when the bones were scattered, the boy called, It is enough, he is dead. And they vanished back into the air. And when the people saw what the boy had done, they were amazed. Stay with us, they said. Let us have a great festival to honor you. And the boy said, I've been gone from my mother for a long time, and my brothers, I would like you to meet them. Let me go back to my home, and we will come back. And so the chief agreed. But she said, let me comb your hair for you before you go. And as she combed his hair, she cut a piece of his hair, and the boy didn't even know it. And so the boy went home. And he told his mother and his brothers of his travels, and that this village of people wanted to honor them. And he asked his mother to make clothing for each brother that was identical. He went to the horse herd. He chose 3 horses that were identical. And when they were dressed, and when all 3 of them were mounted, you could not tell one brother from another. And that's how they were as they journeyed back to that village. And the people were amazed. They said, who is the one who saved our chief? Who is the one we are meant to honor? And the brothers said, we are all that man. And the people were confused. And the chief said, I know how to find out. Let me comb your hair. And she combed each of the brothers' hair, and she found that place where she had cut a lock of hair from the youngest brother. And she leaned close to him and said, I know who you are. Why won't you let us honor you? You saved my life. And the boy said, my journey would not have been possible if my brothers had not made their journey. If you would honor me, you must honor us all. And so they did. So when we think about the code talkers, and we learn their stories, be they Choctaw, Cherokee, Comanche, Navajo, Meskwaki, Lakota, Kiowa, Pawnee, if we would honor one, let us honor them all. Thank you.